One practice which all farmers agree upon is crop rotation. For example, a field full of wheat one year could be planted in peas the next to add nitrogen to the soil.
One of the things is you can use crop rotation to manipulate the soil fertility, okay? You need a more fertile soil in order, for instance, to do corn than you do for peas or beans.
If you keep seeding wheat on wheat on wheat, you'll eventually get disease and your yields come down.
So what is the difference between Renee's zero-till style of farming and Clark and Susan's organic farming? Renee uses fertilizers and pesticides, which are manufactured from non-renewable resources. He relies on crop rotation to break pest and disease cycles while helping with the fertilization. He seeds directly into stubble to keep the ground covered, which controls erosion. Clark and Susan use organic fertilizers and, like Renee, rely on crop rotation. Renee believes that in the long run, to grow grain on the prairie, a large operation can produce at a lower cost per hectare than a smaller farm. This concept is called economy of scale. Renee buys expensive fertilizers, pesticides, and the equipment needed to use them.
The seeder, that's over $60,000. And then the combine, the one over there is over $70,000. Tractor to use, that tractor would be around $35,000, $40,000.
Clark Phillips, who grows vegetables on a substantial yet smaller scale than Renee, has farm inputs that are relatively low cost, but his farm requires much more labor.
Our highest costs are in labor. We have to hire more people to deal with the weeds because we don't use herbicides. And that means that every year, even though we don't have a large acreage, we have a significant number of people from the local community working for us. And in the Maritimes, that's really important because the unemployment is very, very high here. And they're quite happy to work through the summer. And it helps to keep things together in the countryside.
David Reibling, an organic miller near Toronto, has had a different experience.
The interesting thing that happened to us several years ago when we had tried the vegetable end of things, which is labor intensive, we could not hire people to work in the vegetable fields. Our society has learned that they don't have to do backbreaking work because they can walk in and get welfare any day.
We've talked about methods for solving the problems of fertility and pest control: natural, synthetic, organic, or chemical. How do these methods affect our economy, our health, and our environment? These are the questions we have to ask when we talk about sustainable development.
The farmers are in a particularly difficult situation in this country and in the Western world in general, in that they really don't have any control over what it costs them to produce their food, and they don't have any control over the prices they get at the other end. The result of that is it makes it extremely difficult for a lot of farmers to try and farm in a sustainable way.
For instance, like on a loaf of bread, which costs over $1, around $1.25 at the store, we get about 2 cents. Why we keep farming if we barely make ends meet? So we always hope for a better year. Once you're in it, to get out of it is very hard. Like you just can't get out of it. If the prices are very low, nobody will want to buy the land.
You've got a lot of poor people that can't afford to spend a lot of money on food. So when the prices of food goes down by using chemical fertilizers to grow more food so that you can sell it for cheaper, that somewhat helps out the poor people.
We sell food largely on the basis of its cosmetic appearance. And so there's an assumption that that's got something to do with nutritional status.
Canada wastes a lot of food, and I think that something that would really help hunger in Canada is if people would recognize poverty and quit being so picky about little dents in their apples and things like that. And I mean, Safeway throws out tons and tons and tons of fruit and vegetables. And me and my uncle were investigating once how to break into the garbage bins to garbage pick it because there is so much stuff there. And they lock it. They it's like mega locks, mega security system around the garbage there.
I mean, if you go into the supermarket, I mean, this is something everybody can do. is to keep out of the center aisles. Because if you look, most of the food is around the perimeter. You've got vegetables and fruits down one side, you've probably got some bread and meat and milk and so forth and cheese down the other. Just by saying, I'm going to eat primarily from the perimeter of the supermarket is a major step forward in supporting the farmer.
For both Clark and Renee, the sustainability of agriculture is making sure that the land continues to produce the food we need to pass along a viable farm to the next generation.
I hope to be able to farm till I'm age of 65, and if I have a son that wants to take over, a daughter, they'll be welcome to.
You certainly create a situation in which you can leave the land in better shape than you found it, and you know that you're giving people something to eat that will sustain them. I think maybe part of it is just, I think maybe for me personally, maybe the biggest part of it is to make the land what it is.
Is agriculture sustainable? Dr. Hill thinks it can be, but only if we're willing to make changes.
The two things to test what we're doing now: is it nourishing people, and is it maintaining its resource base? And nobody can tell me that the present modern agriculture is doing either of those things. We need to take the best from the traditional experiences in agriculture and combine them with the best of the modern technologies. But in the short term, the first approach is what I call the efficiency approach. Maybe if we're going to put fertilizer on, let's put it where the plant is. The next step is to say, maybe we don't even want to use some of those things. Maybe there's some alternatives to pesticides, like a biological controller, to solve a problem that we've previously solved chemically. And maybe some of those biological ways are less harmful and perhaps more efficient and generally better for the system. And so that's what I call the substitution approach. We'll have to go through this efficiency and substitution stage before people sort of go, aha, you know, why not take a preventive approach? And it's very much parallel to the whole health field.
And the healthier crops are, the less susceptible they are to insect damage and competition from weeds.
There's a medical friend who said, think of it like this: you don't suffer from a headache because of a deficiency of aspirin in the blood. And you know, equally, you don't suffer from pests because of a deficiency of pesticide, but equally you don't suffer from them because you're not releasing some biological. It's really the design of the system, the way we've set it up and the way we manage it. And so that's what we've got to do to have a sustainable agriculture.
Let's look at what we've heard and relate back to the Sustainable Development Triangle. Number 1, the economy. Farmers need to make a living and we need affordable food. Number 2, the health of society. We want to know that the food on our table is nutritious and safe to eat. Number 3, the environment. We must work to sustain our environment so that it can be healthy and nourish us. It is up to all of us, the farmers and the consumers, to work together to make changes, to know where our food comes from and how it's produced, to make agriculture sustainable. After all, what is more important to our survival than food?
Whether things get better in the future or not, I guess depends to a great extent on the people that buy the food. If they decide that the food they want to buy is going to be food which is grown in a way which is good for the land and good for the people who grow it and good for them, then they'll buy it. If they decide that they want to continue to spend only 12 or 13% of their income on food that they eat at home, and they don't give a damn what happens to the soil and the people that are growing it, then it won't change. So I guess the decision is in the hands of the people that buy and eat the food.